Trial of the Chicago 7 is written and directed by Aaron Sorkin and stars Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Mark Rylance, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jeremy Strong, just to name a few, and it follows a group of people who got together to head to Chicago in 1968 to peacefully protest against the ongoing war in Vietnam. However, things very quickly went wrong as a one-to-one confrontation occurred between those protesters and the police, which resulted in a trial that lasted quite a long time. I was quite excited for this movie purely for the reason that it's written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, and if you know anything about Aaron Sorkin, you will know that he's one of the best writers working today. Whether it's Steve Jobs or The Social Network, the guy very rarely puts a foot wrong, and The Trial of the Chicago 7 is yet another film to add to those really well-made movies. Though I don't think this is his best movie to date, it is still a pretty damn good movie nonetheless. Now, I'm going to be brutally honest here. The first act of this movie actually didn't grab me, which I was surprised by that, purely because most of his other films pretty much have me in the palm of their hands from the moment it starts. Whereas this film, the entire first act didn't quite click with me. However, when you get into the second act and the trial is fully underway and things start to heat up and escalate, that's when I was fully engaged. And from that point onwards, I was fully on board with this movie and ended up really, really liking it. I think what works for me about this movie is that it is fascinating, gripping, and at times very tense, and that is purely down to Sorkin's pitch-perfect script, which balances a lot of characters all at once very seamlessly, whilst at the same time perfectly showcasing to you as an audience just how one-sided this trial actually was, and how frustrating it was for the 7 people that were on trial. And the more the movie goes on, the more invested you get as an audience member in this film. Like, there were times in this movie where I was fully on the side of the 7 people on trial, and I was literally almost wanting to shout at the screen just because of how frustrating and one-sided the trial actually was, that it can actually get you amped up as an audience member. And the fact that I was so fully engaged and felt like I was in that courtroom with those characters means that it must have done something right, because I was fully on board with those characters, and by the time the movie ended, I was just glad the trial was over. I mean, it may not have been the result that you maybe want as an audience member, but that being said, you're fully engaged, and especially from my perspective, I was so just fully invested with what was going on. Most of the time, courtroom dramas are not my thing, and they can seem rather boring, but because it's Sorkin handling this, and the way he balances all the characters and making sure they all get their moment to shine, just makes this movie so engaging and puts you in that position as well, and makes you root for these characters, whether they might not seem like the most likable of people from the word go. And this movie wouldn't be nearly as effective as it is if that script wasn't perfectly translated to the screen via the actors. And thankfully, you've got an all-star cast in this movie of fantastic actors that do a brilliant job of putting those words into use. And every performance across the board is either good or really, really good, with a few specific standouts, specifically for me anyway, that were Mark Rylance and Yahya Abdul-Mateen. Every single minute they are on screen, they make the most of their screen time and really do make the words that are coming out of their mouth very powerful and very poignant. There are some specific moments for both of those two characters where they just fully get to go all out with their performances, and you can really tell that they feel invested in what they are doing, and it just makes you as an audience member more engaged in the moment, especially when certain things happen during the trial that really make you question the logistics and morality of it all. And again, this is all backed up by some fantastic performances. Pretty much everyone across the board is really good. You've got Sacha Baron Cohen playing Arby Hoffman. He's really good in the movie and has a few specific standout moments as well. Eddie Redmayne, who I'm usually quite hit and miss as, personally, whenever he's in a movie. I thought he was fantastic in this film. Though he does sound a bit like Kermit the Frog. Yeah, for some reason he just sounds like Kermit in this movie, but he is really good in this movie as well, and he also gets a few specific standout moments. And again, that goes back to my point of Sorkin's script. Every single character feels like they have their own moment to shine and gets a key pivotal moment to themselves, which makes them feel important pretty much over the course of the whole movie. And I'm so glad that they did that, because there's so many characters there to tackle, and because they are all important in their own right, you kind of need each of them to feel important at specific times. So none of them feel left out, and they all feel purposefully represented in this film. However, that being said, there are one or two performances that, though they are good, do feel ever so slightly miscast, and the best example I have of this is Jeremy Strong. He, like I said, his performance isn't bad in the movie. It's actually really good, and it complements Sacha Baron Cohen's character very well, as they are most of the time on screen together as like a duo. But personally, I would never really see Jeremy Strong in that type of role, and I don't know, there's just something about him being in that role that just doesn't quite work for me, though he is good in that performance. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think you kind of get where I'm coming from. In the end, The Trial of the Chicago 7 is a gripping and powerful movie that is more poignant about what is going on in today's society than it is about what happened in the 60s. I loved almost every minute of it, though the first act didn't quite grip me as much as I was expecting it to. But once the court trial actually gets underway, it fully had my investment from that point onwards, which is why I'm going to give the movie an 8 out of 10. I don't think this is Sorkin's best work by any means, but that being said, it's still a good movie. Like, it is really good. So guys, that was my review of The Trial of the Chicago 7. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye.